Shalom, everyone. When Rabbi Meir suffers from his bully neighbors, he wishes them to die. And his smart wife, Bruria, turns to him and says, "Don't wish for them to die. Wish for the sins to end. Don't wish for the people to die. Wish for the wrongdoings to end." That smart sentence by Bruria is quoted by the late Moshe Zilberg, who was a Israel Supreme Court justice. And he says Bruria is touching a good point. Like, what is the purpose of punishment? Is the purpose to prevent doing wrong, or the purpose is for the people to get hurt, to punish the people? And of course, he says that the purpose of punishment is for the wrongdoings to cease, not to be anymore. However, when we look in the Bible, also in Masechet Sanhedrin, that we're in the midst of learning, we see that death penalty is definitely part of the system. So, what is the story of death penalty in Judaism? I am Yafit Clymer, and you're listening to In Second Thought from Hadran. And in the next few podcasts, we will investigate death penalty in the Bible, in Chazal, and up till today. Here we go. We are starting our first investigation into death penalty in the Bible. If we think about it, we know so many stories in Tanakh, in the Bible, that involves death penalty. We can think about the sin of the golden calf. 3,000 people are being killed by the tribe of Levi. They are all sinned in Chet HaEgel. When we look in Sefer Vayikra, we all remember the blasphemer person who was taken out of the camp and was stoned to death. The same thing with the person who were collecting food in Shabbat, HaMekoshesh. That's in Sefer Bamidbar, in Numbers, and his penalty was also to be stoned. Zimri ben Selwen Cosbi Batsur, the couple who had relations between Oel Moed and Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, takes his sword and stabs the both of them. He realizes they deserve to die. Achan, the person who took from the forbidden spoil in Sefer Yoshua, and his penalty was to be stoned to death. In the book of Judges, we all remember the tribe of Binyamin with Pilegesh Bagiv'ah, and they were killed in a war. God said they all deserve to die, and 25,000, more than 25,000 people were killed. We remember the story of David killing 7 of Shaul's descendants, 2 the children of Ritzpah Bataya, and 5 children of one of his daughters, either it's Michal or Merav. But yes, he gave them to the Givonim, and they killed them. When David dies, he tells Shlomo, he gives Shlomo a list of people that he should kill, because that's what they deserve, because he did something wrong to David. One of them is Adoniah ben Chagid, the other is Yoav, and more. And when we come to a certain story in the book of Melachim, and here I will share the sources, and I'm talking about the second book of Kings, and there the Navi is telling us that once he had the kingdom firmly in his grasp, he put to death the courtiers who had assassinated his father, the king. We're talking about King Amaziah, the son of the king Yoash, and when he comes to power, he kills all the people who assassinated his father. But it says, but he did not put to death the children of the assassins, in accordance with what is written in the book of the teachings of Moshe, Besefer Torat Moshe, where God commanded parents should not be put to death for children, nor children be put to death for parents. They shall be put to death only for their own crime. In other words, we hear that in Sefer Melachim, the Book of Kings, in the time of the first temple, the people, when the king wanted to know who can he kill and who's not, he's going according to the rules that were set in the book of Moshe, the Sefer Torah Moshe. And there, one rule that he takes from Sefer Torah Moshe is every person die for their own crime. We can't punish someone for other person's crime. So that's one rule that we hear. But since he's sending us to Sefer Torah Moshe, to the book of Moshe, let's go back to the Chumash and let's see there what are the principles. Yes, there are so many stories in Tanakh of people killing people as a punishment. But what are the rules? What are the principles, the ruling principles in terms of death penalty in Tanakh? So the first place is Sefer Shmot in Parashat Mishpatim, and there it says very explicitly, one who fatally strikes another party shall be put to death. This is according to the biblical rule of midah keneged midah. You get punished according to what you did. And the midah keneged midah here, you killed somebody, you will put to death. But then it continues to say, if a man did so, but not by design, it came about by an act of God, or he didn't mean to do it, I will assign you a place to which he can flee. In other words, arei miklat, a city that will give you shelter. In other words, there is a limit to a person, midah keneged midah, you killed, you'll die. If you did it on purpose, you'll die. But if you did it unpurposely or not by design, then you don't deserve to die. There's another rule. That's another limiting rule, which is very important. However, the Torah continues and says, one who strikes one's father or mother shall be put to death. That doesn't sound to us as accordingly to what he did. Is there a similarity between striking your parents and killing a person? Continues the Torah and says, one who kidnaps another party, whether having sold or still holding the victim, shall be put to death. Again, if you stole somebody, if you kidnapped somebody, is that the same thing as killing? And the last one is, one who installs one's father or mother shall be put to death. So the Torah is telling us another rule here. Sometimes it seems like the act or the crime is not as severe as killing a person, but there's definitely way of behaviors by human beings that can be as equal as to killing somebody. If it's your own parents and you either, God forbid, curse them or hit them or strike them, it's as if you say they don't deserve respect. Their life is not as important. Same thing as kidnapping a person. If you kidnap a person, you say the life of that person doesn't matter. And that's why it's equal to death. Another important rule in the Torah in terms of death penalty is the following sentence in the book of Numbers. If anyone slays a person, the killer may execute it only on the evidence of witnesses. It's not easily done to say, I saw somebody killing someone, and then we need to kill him. No. We need witnesses. We need at least 2 witnesses. The testimony of a single witness against the person shall not suffice for a sentence of death. So even though death penalty is everywhere in Tanakh, there are limits, and this limit comes to add has to be with 2 witnesses. Not so easily can we sentence somebody to death, even if he took a life of another person, or that's what they say about him. When we come to a more general description of why is it that death penalty is something we're using in Sefer Devarim about Masit Umadiach, someone who's trying to persuade people not to follow the word of God, the Torah says, let the hand of the witnesses be the first to put the condemned to death, followed by the hands of the rest of the people. Thus you will sweep out evil from your midst. In other words, there are things, saying the Torah, that people are doing, and it's not involving killing other people, but the act of their sin is evil in our midst, and we have to sweep it away. And it has to do with Chilul Hashem. It has to do with bringing another actions to the world that are distancing us from behaving at the high moral behavior that God is expecting us to behave. Very similarly, we also hear in Sefer Devarim that the Torah is saying, and the magistrates shall make a thorough investigation. The judges should make a thorough investigation. And if the one who testifies is a false witness, having testified falsely against a fellow Israelite, you shall do to the one as the one schemed to do to the other. Thus you will sweep out evil from your midst. In other words, another limit is Ed Sheker. Ed Sheker, he just gave a false testimony. But because of his false testimony, somebody can lose his life. That's why if we found out he lied, he should also be put to death, because this is what he wished for his fellow person to have. And that's another evil that we want to sweep out from our midst. There's another interesting verse here in Dvarim Yutet, and it says, "Lo yishafech dam naki bekerev artzecha." We have to be very careful not to shed clean blood. In other words, innocent blood. Even though death penalty is allowed and is in use in Tanakh, there has to be a lot of cautious, and we have to be very careful in, God forbid, not to kill people who are not supposed to die, because that's a clean blood, that's innocent blood, and that is as severe as killing someone who is as murdering somebody. And another way that the Torah discusses death penalty is that even if any party is guilty of a capital offense and is put to death, okay, with witnesses, with doing sins that, the penalty for them is death, is a capital punishment, and you killed the person and you impale the body on a stake, you must not let the corpse remain on the stake overnight, but must bury it in the same day. There's another expectation from us as human beings. Even after the judges decide he deserved to die, and he was killed by one of the fourth capital punishment that the court allows to use, and after the death, they hang him on a tree, whether to show everybody or maybe it's just a process till they know what to do with the body. Do not let the body stay there overnight. There's something wrong and inappropriate by doing that. And the pasuk is using a very strange sentence, saying, for an impaled body is an affront to God, because it's a curse to God to let it hang there. You shall not defile the land and your God in giving you, your God is giving you to possess. And in other words, he deserved it. Bury him. Respect the body who carries Tzelem Elokim, the image of God. Don't let it be despised for no good reason. He got his punishment, give him a respectful burial. And Rashi is saying a degradation of a divine king for man is made in his image, and the Israelites are his children. So if someone sees a man hanged up, a dead man hanged up, and they're like, oh, maybe they will also say that, look, an image of God is on the tree, and that's not, and that is a degradation, says Rashi. And another principle that I would like to show you before we move on is in the book of Vayikra, in Parashat Achrei Mot. And there the Torah is saying the following: "You shall keep my laws and my rules, by the pursuit of which human beings shall live. I am God. ושמרתם את חוקותיי ואת משפטיי, אשר יעשה אותם האדם וחי בהם, אני השם." I'm giving you laws, says God. I'm giving you principles. I'm giving you rules of how to live and how to create a just and moral society. And I'm giving you that in order for you to live. My rules are for you to live in, not to die. In other words, we have two values here: to punish someone who takes life, and to cherish life and to understand that the chukim u'mishpatim and the mitzvot and the laws of God are there for us to live accordingly. So after we saw that Tanakh is full of death penalty, and also the parts in Chumash that deals with Jewish law, it has a law of killing another person if he killed, but it has a lot of limitations and conditions. I want to go back now to the beginning, to the place where the values are being set, not the specific logistic laws of death penalty and how to do it, but the principle, the values. Like, how do we look at somebody taking another person's life? And of course, I mean by that going to Sefer Bereshit, the book of Genesis. Let me share the sources, and we'll see. After we saw all the psukim in Chumash that deals with the rules and the laws and the different versions, when we go back to the book of Genesis, to the beginning, where the Torah is setting for herself the values, the wishful thinking of how people should behave, what's the right way to behave. Of course, we have to start with the first murder that the Torah describes. It's a brother against a brother. When Cain said to his brother Abel, and when they were in the field, Cain set upon his brother Abel and killed him. Vayakom Cain and Hevel achiv vayargeu. Now, according to Jewish law that will come in Sefer Shmot, in the next Sefer, his punishment should have been to death. Cain should have been put to death. But since Sefer Bereshit is the book where God is teaching us the right way to behave, it's all about education. So at that point, Cain doesn't get death penalty, but through him, God is trying to teach us a lesson, a message for what it is that we should think about when somebody is killing another person. And when God hears that, when God turns to Cain and he says, "I can hear the blood of your brother from the ground." In other words, killing another person is stopping the world. Something very dramatic is happening. And God is trying to teach Cain how bad what he did is. And the punishment he gives him, "Ki ta'avod et ha'adama lo tosef kocha lach, you should walk around the country and you're not going to be happy. You're not going to, the work, the labor of your hands by working the land is going to be very poor. And everyone is going to look at you and say, this is Cain who killed his brother. This punishment," says God, "is the right punishment." So everyone will understand and everyone will know that killing another person, especially your brother, is a bad thing. And the reaction of Cain is pretty amazing. Cain is saying, my punishment is too great to bear. And he said to God, "What do you mean your punishment is too great to bear?" It's either he thinks that what he did was not such a bad thing, and that's why it's so important that we hear about this, because God, the new thing that God is trying to teach humanity, that killing another person is a big deal. Or he thinks that he did something bad, but he doesn't deserve such a great punishment as walking, moving from place to place. Nevertheless, we hear from here that there's something that humanity needs to learn, that killing another person is not like stealing, it's not like lying, it's something much, much worse. And the Torah, for the first time, God is giving us, like spreading the idea, talking to telling us, bit by bit, everything that we should know about murdering. And it's after it's in Parashat Noach, after the Mabul. Noach comes out of the ark together with his family. Noach's family is the family of the nations. They made the 70 nation of the rest of the world, of the entire world, except for Mishpachat Avraham. And the only and the first order that God is giving humanity through Noach is do not murder. But for your own lifeblood, I will require a reckoning. I will require it of every beast, of man too. I will require a reckoning for human life, of every man for that of his fellow man. Whoever shed the blood of man, by men shall his blood be shed, for in the divine image did God make man. God is declaring here, killing another person is as if you killed the image of God. And this is something which God will not going to bear. This is something that require radical measures. And God is the one that will take the revenge or give the punishment. Because killing another person is a sin towards God, not only towards the person who was murdered. And the one who says this beautifully and concludes this idea of death penalty and murder and killing another person in the Tanakh is the late Professor Moshe Greenberg, who was a Bible professor in Hebrew, and he investigated the law in Tanakh. And he says the following: the principle of the inestimable value of human life is the basis of the difference between a biblical approach to the crime of murder and the approach of other legal systems in the Near East, and I will explain. Not only that, we saw that the Torah gives a lot of limits and conditions to death penalty, but in the area of Canaan, what was used to be in the foreign countries around us was that you can buy, if you murdered somebody, you can give money to the family. If you murdered somebody, the family could revenge by killing someone from your family. Or the value of a person could be measured by, was he a young person, a man, a woman, a slave? Yeah, there was hierarchies in the values of people. And says Professor Greenberg, that thing did not exist. That's a new order that the Torah is bringing. It's precise and appropriate formulation, and the difference between the biblical approach to crime of murder and the approach around in the Near East is, and your blood will I acquire. I, God, will acquire the blood at the hand of every living creature. Men's blood shall be shed by men, for in the image should not be shed by men, for in the image of God he made man. Human beings are made in the image of God. That's why when we kill, and God forbid we murder, God will require the revenge. And he says, this is an expression of his unique and supreme value. The fact that man was created in the image of God is the expression of his unique and supreme value. A creature that kills a human corpus, a human, corrupts the image of God and therefore will be judged. This view of the uniqueness and superiority of human life has another conclusion, according to which the value of human life is beyond any other system of value. The idea that human life can be valued at a monetary value is rejected, and even less than the value of a person cannot be weighed against the value of another person. The murderer's sin is immeasurable because the value of the murdered person is immeasurable. The relatives of a murdered person are not entitled to determine the amount of compensation for the murder. It turns out that the view has contradictory conclusions, because the value of human life is immeasurable. Therefore, one who takes life forfeits his own life. Professor Greenberg is telling us an unbelievable idea in the Tanakh, that yes, according to the law of the Tanakh, you killed somebody. It's immeasurable. That's why you need to give your own life. You were lightheaded towards another person's life. Therefore, maybe your life is not worth, and it's not a sin against humanity. It's a sin against God. The question would be now, when we move on in history to the time of the Second Temple, and we know from Masechet Sanhedrin that Chazal shrinked the reality of using death penalty to a minimum of a minimum. Why did that happen? What was the process? If the Torah and the Tanakh using it and allowing death penalty to be, what happened that Chachamim were trying to eliminate death penalty to a minimum? In order to hear the question for that, join me for the next shiur.